One of the most famous groups in the country, all over the world, was Herman's Hermits from 63 to 73. The gentleman who was lead singer and star, Peter Noone, who was, everybody has called you Herman.
Yeah, well, that was my name. Yeah. That was my name then, and it still is. They still call me now. I think what I'm going to do is change my name to Peter, in brackets, Herman Noone, you know. Because everyone calls me Herman.
Where did the name come from, Herman's Hermits?
It came from a cartoon show called The Bullwinkle Show. There was a guy called Sherman and another guy called Professor Peabody. And we were going to call ourselves Sherman's Hermits. And, you know, it just got bastardized into Herman's Hermits.
Hermits. Yeah. Unbelievable. I told you before the show, Peter, I still see you on clips like I do the Beatles from the Ed Sullivan Show, from all those great network shows. You did all of them, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. I've been collecting them, and I collect all those old videos.
Wow.
I had people looking for me in archives and things, and I didn't realize how many we'd done and how nice the people were. You know, like Danny Kaye was so nice with the group, and Ed Sullivan and all those people. You know, they always said nice things about us on the show. But when you do those shows, they were live television, so you kind of never knew what was said about you. You kind of were waiting in, like, to do your song, all nervous, because people said there's 250 million people will see this show, and you go, you know, I was 16. And then I get all the tapes now, and you see all the stuff that was really, they were very nice to us, all those people. I think the big stars in America were always probably big stars because they were nice people.
And you were on all of their shows, their specials?
Everything, yeah. You know, we did all the specials with Danny Kaye's show, and George Burns had a special, and we were invited on the Jackie Gleason show. All the big ones, Dean Martin.
Oh, that's incredible. All the money you made, did you keep it all and invest into
Well, I didn't bring any of it with me here. No, I was very lucky because when you're only 16 or 17, the only way you can imagine to spend money is to buy an Italian car.
Is that what you did?
Yeah, I had lots of them, you know. But that was, you know, when you're older, you buy all kinds of different things, spend it partying and stuff like that. When you're 16 or 17, all I wanted to do, I bought a hotel for my parents. Not like the Sands Hotel, you know, more like the, you know, it's like a smaller hotel than the Sands in England.
In England, yeah.
By the seaside.
Is it still there? They still have it?
Yeah. And those kind of things. You know, I was a very sort of normal working class boy.
Huh. How did the whole thing start? Was it?
It started, really how it happened was I was in a television series in England. It was like Dallas, only it was about Manchester, you know, which is like not quite as flashy as Dallas. Can you imagine a show called Manchester? It's called Coronation Street, anyway. And it was like being in a show called Kingman, you know. And,
Kingman.
But it's still running. It's still running. It's the longest running show in England. And I was the son of the star. And I played a 12-year-old boy, and I was 12 years old, and I was perfectly cast. And they sent me to a college of music where they had a drama class. And I was taking this drama class with Eunice Whitfield, who was a very nice lady, but very boring when you're 12, 13. And I could always hear these guys playing guitars in another room, you know, Chuck Berry intros. So I was always like half in the other room. And one day I went in, and one of these guys showed me how to play A on the guitar. You know, it was very simple. It was like a bar A, you know. And suddenly, and then he said, just move it up here, and you're going down here and all this. And suddenly I could play a Chuck Berry song. And that was the end. I never wanted to be an actor anymore, although I did eventually carry on to be an actor. And I joined these guys, and we made this group up called the Cyclones. And I was a guitar player for about a week until they figured I was never going to be more than mediocre. I wasn't actually going to be Jimi Hendrix. And my hair wasn't frizzy enough, you know. And they made me the singer. Because in those days, you be the singer, you know. And we don't want you playing any of this music.
Right.
And I liked that because I could wear like silver lame suits and tell stories. And we did a bar mitzvah and got paid off after 2 songs. And then we made another group called Pete Novak and the Heartbeats. And I was Pete Novak, the Crown Prince, the Crown Prince of Twist.
Oh,
this goes back a long way, you know. And we didn't know the twist was already over when we started doing it, right? So we were twisters. And then when we discovered that the twist was gone and only 45-year-old ladies liked the twist and would even care to do it, we decided we would go after teenagers, and we called ourselves Herman's Hermits. And that got us a record deal. We were by then really famous locally. You know, we'd been working for about 2 years. We'd done everybody's bar mitzvah and everybody's sister's wedding, and everybody knew us personally, intimately. Most of the girls knew us. And the first record came out, and it was #1 in 3 weeks.
Which was what?
It was called I'm Into Something Good.
And that was in England?
Yeah, and then they said, well, you have to make an album. Then it came out over here, and it was top 20, and they said, you have to make an album. So we went to the studio, and we booked the studio for 3 hours, and we made an album.
In 3 hours?
Yeah. And that had Mrs. Brown, You Got a Lovely Daughter in, which sold 7 million. And it had Henry VIII, which sold about 5 million. and it had a song called The End of the World, which sold a couple of million. I mean, in 3 hours.
Who did all these songs, Peter?
They were all other people's songs. We just, you know, what happened was every band in town was doing the same songs. They all did a couple of Beatles songs and a couple of Chuck Berry songs and a couple of, you know, Coasters songs. So I looked for songs that made us different, unusual, because we had an unusual name, and I was already on, I'd been on the TV and everyone kind of knew me. So I wanted to do different songs, and we got Mrs. Brown, You Got a Lovely Daughter, because it was so unusual. It had a banjo, nobody else did it. I was the only person in England who sang with an English accent. Every band sang with an American accent, even the Beatles, you know. And
I never thought about that, you're right.
so, you know, I was trying to come up with all these unusual things, and our show was based on more or less, I always had this self-deprecating sense of humor, which was, you know, I sent up the band.
Yeah.
You know, we had a send-up name and stuff like that. And it worked for us, you know, we went, oh, we sold 50 million records.
Well, it's just that songs that I just mentioned at the beginning of the show, Mrs. Brown, You've Got a Lovely Daughter, on down, you've got a list that you showed me that you perform on the show, which we'll get into in just a moment, Peter's at the Sands. But, I mean, those are songs that will live forever, Peter.
Hopefully.
People flash on them in a second.
Miss Henry VIII was written in 1922. It's a very old song. And I do another one in the show called I'm Leaning on a Lamppost, which was like 1929, 30.
Really?
Yeah, songs my grandfather taught me. You know, I was from this, my family were all historically amateur musicians, very amateur, you know. But they all played in bands. My grandfather played the church organ and taught all the women to sing and stuff. And my father had a band, you know, and the Bee Gees' father was in my father's band, you know, one of those dance bands.
Yeah.
And we didn't have TV, you know, in those days. 53 TV came out in England. And on parties and Christmas Eve and stuff like that, everyone went into the room called the parlor.
Yeah.
And played the piano. And we didn't buy records as much as when records came out, we heard them on the radio, and we would go and buy the music. And everybody read music and played an instrument.
I'm curious, Peter, since '73, the band, or you no longer were active with Herman's Hermits, I assume. What happened between '73 and present time?
Well, the reason I left the band was because I was afraid to be Herman and be, you know, like A Star is Born starring Barbra Streisand and Herman. It wasn't going to be, you know, and that was the kind of thing that I wanted to do. So I thought I'd better get out of the band and start letting people know who Peter Noone is. And I wanted to do Broadway shows and stuff like that. And historically, they've never had rock and roll singers on Broadway. There's only two of us, me and David Bowie, who ever done Broadway shows. And I eventually made it. I just finished doing it. I did the Pirates of Penzance for 2 years. I did it on Broadway, and I did it in Washington. Did it for the President in Washington. And I did it in London for a year. And I finally got my Broadway show. You know, when I was a little boy, I wanted to do a Broadway show, because that's like, it's like the end of a career.
Yeah.
And Vegas was another one of those things that I wanted to do Vegas, you know.
And you're doing it.
Yeah.
You're co-headlining with the association whose hits are many and were at the same time as you, weren't they?
A little bit later than us, actually.
A little bit later?
Yeah, maybe a year later than us.
Yeah.
We came at the same time as the Beatles, the Stones, the Dave Clark Five. Those were we were the four bands who first came.
Yeah, who flooded the world.
We weren't chicken. We said, let's go there. They said, we'll give you $80 a night, we're coming. First tour we did was with Dick Clark Caravan of Stars, and we did 80 nights. And we got paid, I think we grossed $24,000, the band.
80 nights?
80 consecutive nights. And we weren't top of the bill at the beginning of the tour. It was Little Ancy and the Imperials who were top of the bill. And Bobby Vee was on the thing, and Ike and Tina Turner, and we got to meet all these great American performers. But we opened the show. And by the end of the show, by the 80th day, we were top of the bill, and we had 3 records in the top 10. So it just showed you, you know, it was a great time.
But 80 days, you must have been blitzed.
I was 15, you know.
So
I mean, there's nothing better than being 15 and being on the road on a bus with great performers.
Because you can handle it. It's not
well,
like,
you know, you can't get dangerous. They all looked after me. They were all saying, you know, you'd go through these states and you could buy white lightning and stuff on the side of the road. Of course, I never saw it, you know. Nobody smoked near me. I was like this child amongst all these grown people.
Oh, unreal. Well, it's sure nice to have you in Las Vegas, Peter. You're a great star. You're a great singer. These tunes, it's so nice to have somebody like you who's still performing, and you look as good, if not better, than probably when you were 15.
Well, thank you very much, yeah. This is the earliest I've ever been up in my life, you know.
But I know that just to hear you sing those songs at the Sands will be a treat in itself, and then with the association on top of it, it's got to be a fantastic show. And I was a disc jockey for many, many years before I got into television, and I must have played your tunes. I mean, they've been...
Played them as many times as I've played them, right?
And I really wish you a lot of success. You'll be there at the Sands now through...
Right until Sunday.
Through this Sunday.
Yeah, we finish Sunday night. Two shows a night, yeah.
2 shows a night. So I really suggest everybody gets out to see you.
Oh, me too. You should come down and see us. It's a good night out, actually. It is a good night out.
I'm sure of it. Peter, thank you very much. Good luck to you.
Thank you very much. Nice to